Talk to me. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. Talk to Me is a supernatural horror film directed by the brother team of Danny and Michael. I'm going to mispronounce their name. I apologize. Philippou, in their feature directorial debut. In the film written by both, it stars Sophie Wilde, Alexandra Jensen, Joe Bird, Otis Hanji, Miranda Otto, and Zoe Trakes. The film premiered at the Adelaide Film Festival in 2022 and was released in 2023 to acclaim from critics who praised its story, direction, horror sequences, practical effects, sound design, as well as the performances, especially of Sophie Wilde. It was a box office success. Off of a $4 million budget, it would go on to gross $93 million, becoming A24's highest grossing horror film and third highest grossing film overall.
Wow.
A sequel is currently in development for Talk to Me, which the Ghouls Next Door, Gabe and Kat, brought to the mission tonight for this stop in Bootober. Ghouls, what say you of Talk to Me?
Yeah. I mean, it's an emotional movie more than anything else. Like, as we kind of said earlier, is like the horror is not so much the scary things that are happening, but like the tragedy that is existing and like experiencing the trauma and the loss and then like grappling with a connection to the afterlife and the supernatural because of that grief and loss. So yeah, less like, and more like, oh.
Yeah. Which is interesting because on its trappings, you know, especially considering that it's a film that's about, you know, starts with a group of kids at like some rowdy party in Australia, because this film is it's made and set in Australia by Australian actors and directors and crew. But that is like your classic setup for virtually like pick a horror movie out of the last 20, 30 years. Yet this totally, you know, goes left from there.
Yeah, it definitely is, I'd say, one of my top favorite horror films ever. I would go to say, yeah. Wow. It's definitely one of my top for a variety of reasons. But as you're saying, like, I think it does horror really well. And not like the jump scare, but just like there's a lot of clever like effects and a lot of thought that went through it. And that came from the directors who, you know, their claim to fame was just a bunch of really amazing YouTube videos that they would make together.
Yeah, 1 billion views on their YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, and just to like mess with special effects and CG, like to learn that for themselves and then taking this. But also, as Kat was saying, just the emotional aspects to it. And I really just love this idea. Like, we've come through so many iterations of like the possession or communing with the devil type film. And I felt like it was so like such a Gen Z response to confirming that supernatural things exist. Like, the other side exists. There is an afterlife. It's scary. There are ghosts. Anyone else, like the Ouija board, any of that, there comes like some level of like, oh, we don't mess with that once it becomes real. But for them, they're like, no, it's a party now. Now it's
a party
like,
game. It's an app.
We're putting it online, but we're not even just online. We're sharing it in a group chat, right? So it's not online. We're not even telling anyone that we discovered that there's another world. Instead, it's something that we're going through together. It's a secret, and it's just like, it just felt to me like such a Gen Z approach to something that would scare everybody else.
I actually thought the generational part of it was handled so well, because an extension to what you're saying, I thought they did a really good job of showing that there is a generation of people that sort of objective reality and the spectacle that you see on the screen is blurred. Like Mia spent so much time looking at videos of her mother. Almost every scene, there's a kid on a phone.
Yeah.
And you know, you get a version of that, you know, really cynical picture that you see of people at a concert. And they're not looking at the concert, they're looking at the phone, looking at the concert. And I think you're right. Like I think, all jokes aside, for someone like me, you know, I always start with, why are these people doing this? But I thought between the generational aspect and the way it captured Mia's grief, you get it. Like you understand the decisions that the people in this film make, which in my mind is the highest compliment I could pay a film that plays it fair. Like it very early on, like you said, this is real. All of it. Like I love the fact that all of the characters actually experience the hand. So there's never a moment where someone is, after the initial moment of, oh, they're kind of playing. No, this is real. We've all gone through it. But because of the framework they've set up, it doesn't throw me out of it as the viewer. Like, well, what the hell are they doing? So, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like desensitization that comes with later generation. Like ours definitely growing up just like in the shadow of 9/11. Then you have a whole generation that doesn't even know about that, but they have access to anything on the internet. And so, yeah, it is like there is a distortion between reality and what they're seeing on a screen. And even their perception of self is really twisted. And so, yeah, I think it felt very believable in that way that, of course, that's the way that they would handle it. And yeah, it just has that extra layer of just the grief and the sadness. And like, you absolutely understand why Mia did what she did. And it sets her up for failure and you're like, oh, she's going. She's going straight in there. You could, even knowing like, you can tell immediately, okay, this is what's going to happen. Right. And it still is a fun ride the whole time. Like you're still emotionally
It's a slow train wreck. Like her mom's going to show up. Or something pretending to be her mom.
Yeah. But the one thing that really many things hit me in this movie, but the one thing that really did hit me was the idea that these kids, they just see like, oh my God, we can. They don't even. It doesn't even dawn on them like we're talking to the other side. It's that. It's a new high, that's, and that's all it is. Yeah. Like it boils down to that, it's like, it's just this rush that they can't get enough of. And I thought, this movie playing fair and showing the addictive, how that could be so addictive and pulls everyone in. And even though you're filming it, it still becomes very much of a society in and of itself, because there's probably tons of people, because if you're watching online, there are some people who are voicing it like the one girl, oh, they're just playing. Right. They're just playing tricks on you. Right. It's the whole seance type of thing going on. But when you're actually in the room, you're like, oh, whoa. Especially when it's your friend and that they're not in on the joke. So you're like, yo, what's going on? Right. It's crazy. I really like them playing with that. That was very smartly done.
Yeah, very much an addiction metaphor throughout the whole thing. The fact they get strapped to the chair. The time limit is like that idea of like that first time of like you only get this amount of time and you're safe. You're going to be okay. And wanting to come back more, doing horrible things, but then still doing it again because the high is more than whatever you just experienced. And the fact that it's a party, it's a party trick. Like they're having fun.
Yeah, like a dissociation from like the accountability for your actions that comes with alcohol or drug use.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So, how did you come to find this movie? With just looking?
I watched it in theaters, actually. So I believe I saw the trailer, which was at the time the party sequence. So that the lively song, and then like they're touching the hand and they do which is like it was a TikTok trend actually, that like the falling over camera.
Oh, really?
And so it was like they're using that and like her singing in French, and it just looked like a really fun time with horror as well, because you're also seeing them with like the black eyes, scariness. So I went right out to see it, actually with a longtime friend Jeff, who's like my go-to horror watcher if Kat isn't available. So we watched it in theaters, like alone. We went like on a Wednesday night in like Camden. We were like the only ones who were watching it, and it was such an experience to be there and we really like it if it's a quiet theater because we're talkers. So we're definitely ones who are like, oh, what is that? Or, oh, did you see this? Or like Jeff kept being like, why is there so much yellow? She's always wearing yellow. And I was like, Jeff, she just likes the color yellow. I was like, what? Or like, oh, the kangaroo, because that's like their deers, like when she hits the kangaroo, those kinds of things. But it was such an experience to watch it. And I couldn't stop talking about it. Like I bothered Kat so much. We wanted to cover it last year. And like at the end, I was like, we have to figure out a way to talk about it. Talk to me. And so then finally we got it onto the Ghouls. But it was one where I forced like Kat and my husband Mike to sit down and watch it. And it was a film where I watched them watch it because I remembered my visceral first experience. And I'll say it was eye-opening for me because I'm not super sensitive to gore and to like body harm. But Kat is. And so watching like Kat like get really emotional and watching that and seeing like the severity of those, I was like, oh, right, that's here too. Like I was so much more distracted by like
it's just cool.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is so rough. This is very rough. And so I made it a point, like, this is one of my favorite movies. I highly recommend, but I always add the caveat, like it is graphic and like can be really intense.
Yeah, like heavy.
And if that's not something you can deal with.
Well, you touched on it, Kat, because you said that this is a movie that is not about the jump scares.
Yeah.
Because there really aren't any. I can't think of anything, but it is about the mood. It is about, and it's about that mood, that tension that builds up. And despite the supernatural element to it, it is about a very relatable tension. It's the idea that you could have a final word with someone that passed. When there's a moment in here where Mia, realizes that some young boy has channeled her mother, and you see her face change on the screen. And the other thing that I like about this movie is like the music doesn't cue you in on anything.
No, yeah.
Right? So like the music doesn't forewarn you like there's a shift coming. And when that shift comes, man, I mean, as someone who has lost their parents,
Right.
man, boy, I was right there with her.
Right.
I was right there with her. Like, no, just a little bit longer. You want to hold on to that moment so much so. It's so powerful.
And then when you add to it where there's this, it's barely subtext, and then it bubbles up in the last half hour, these questions about how her mother died and what happened. And her father makes a decision to keep a piece of evidence away from her so that she ends up having these questions so that again, like you said, you 100% understand. And as far as the mood, I have to say with all of the gore and the sort of body horror, I think the most affecting scenes for me were the few scenes with just her and her father.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Where you could feel that, like I thought the direction did such a great job of showing the emptiness of
Their
this
relationship.
house. And it's one thing for a place to be empty because it's empty. It's another thing for a place to be empty that didn't used to be empty.
Yeah.
And I thought they did, like the conversation between father and Mia, I thought was so well done.
And it's a very nice visual cue. If I remember, a lot of the scenes, one of them was always a little out of focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They
Yeah.
didn't look directly at each other until the
They
end.
talk like
And they're actually, like, I thought there's a moment where he's trying to talk to her and she's washing the dishes and she can't hear him over the water.
Yeah.
And it's so well done because they're out of sync.
Yeah.
Like they're actually out of sync with each other.
And who hasn't had that scene?
Right.
Who hasn't had that scene where she's washing the dishes, he's talking to her, she doesn't want to hear from him.
Right.
So she turns down the water and you can see her face. What?
Right.
Just let me just get through this. Let me just get back to the water to just take me away from this. Oh my God.
And for me, that is what always elevates horror. Like if I don't care about the characters. Then when the monster comes, well, you just don't care.
Yeah.
But I thought it did such a great job, not even, not just with Mia's family, but with the other family and kind of setting up the stakes. So yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah. It was also just like a really accurate depiction of like trauma in that age group too. Like she's going through something very horrific that you would not want anyone to experience, but let alone like a teenager at a time period where they like really need their mom. And then like that combined with like developmentally, they don't have the cognitive development to see that far in the future. So like they are asking questions and have like this connection to their peers, and their peers are like, I don't know what you're going through and I do not know how to help. So like everyone throughout the whole movie fails her.
Yeah.
And it's just very, hurts.
I love the fact that they act like teenagers, and it's at the point where it's like, my little brother is perhaps possessed by some type of spirit. We've gone through this whole thing. We're seeing ghosts. We now know that someone has been murdered. What do you mean you were laying in the bed with my boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's the thing you're mad about.
Like, it's such a wonderful moment.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's real.
it's look.
It's real.
I've been looking at you this whole movie, looking at my boyfriend.
Yeah, and it's like that's not what's important. Right now.
I'll say priorities,
There's some
kids.
awful things.
Even the
happening.
ghosts know. The ghosts were calling it out. They're like through him. Like, I
Right.
want to touch you. She's like, oh my God. It was, they were like, we see you, girl. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very teenager, very like on the phone, like you said, bringing your younger brother to the party.
Yeah.
Like having to, like, you can't go unless you go with him.
talk.
Yeah.
Real talk. That is real. And you also touched on the other thing that people can learn a lesson from: practical effects.
Yes.
Because there were so many scenes in this movie where I was thinking, I would be curious if they had the bigger budget, would they have CG'd some of those?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because that's just not their brand.
The other
But-
thing is,
But it works. So it's worked so well. I mean, just, there was a time, ladies and gentlemen, where it was makeup. You had to make somebody look disgusting, look like they drowned and were all bloated up, and make a corpse look like a corpse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the body horror and the kind of distended limbs and everything, it reminded me of An American Werewolf in London. Like that, when he's turning into the werewolf, and it's so much of the distended limbs, and that's Ron Baker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love, and it grounds it. It doesn't. It's not a green screen. It's not. So there's an immediacy to it with the makeup.
Yeah, I think it like takes that part of it seriously, because like there's a time and a place for camp, and I love like campy, gory horror where it's like a body doesn't do that. There's not that much body. There's not that much blood. Like, I love Substance. That was amazing, right? But this was like, it took the gore as serious as they took like the messaging of the film, and like that's something that could happen to a body. Or like that scientifically would happen, which can make it even more terrifying for people watching it, because you can't disassociate and be like, it's just a movie, it's silly. It's like, oh God.
Oh yeah, like it's real. Like even it's like a supernatural concept. You would think like you could make it silly, but they took it like really honest.
Yeah, which makes it all the more plausible, which makes it all the more eerie and a little bit discomforting.
Yeah.
Watching this film. But does it earn the title Talk to Me?
I mean, they literally say, talk to me, to invite it in.
Yeah, they say the name of the movie many times in the movie.
It's actually a theme.
Yeah, I feel like they have.
Okay.
You got to say, talk to me. Just letting it in.
And if you want to dig into it like that, talking about the millennial perspective, I do think this sort of distance that we've been talking about with the technology and emotions and all, everyone in here is just trying to connect with one another. Like obviously Mia is the main one, but I thought Paul and Jasmine.
I think Jasmine.
The
sister.
Jade.
I thought Paul and Jade kept kind of missing each other. And I have to say, I also read Paul is gay. And I thought part of what was going on is that Paul hadn't quite, they're in high school. So it's like there are all these characters, even the two chuckleheads with the hand, because I watched it with the subtitles on. And there's so much when everything kind of goes wonky with the two of them in the background going, I thought you did. I told you to. This too. It's like no one is actually talking to each. The whole film is about that.
The dad not talking to her and telling her what actually happened to her mom. And I agree about him being gay, because the ghost is saying it disgusts him to think about that. And she interprets it as he wants to touch my friend, but he doesn't. No. He very clearly doesn't. He's like, oh, that was silly when we were young. So I agree with that.
Good read on that. Good read on that on Talk to Me from 2023, what we're reviewing tonight here on the Micheaux Mission. What do we think of, this is primarily brought to the mission because we review Black films.
Sure.
Because of the performance of Sophie Lane in the lead role, more or less, Mia. What do we think of her performance?
It's phenomenal. And I think it's a very intentional, and I'll let Kat actually talk more about it too, because it was in their section. But I think it's very intentional that she is a young Black woman who's experiencing this, and that the people who are in her life, like this found family that lets her down, is white. And there's like the way that they react to her being like claiming that she's at fault for what happens to this kid and things. There's a lot of there's certain language that comes up that she's not holding her own daughter to the same standards.
Yeah, lots of you can see the underlying bias even in this found family. They're supposed to love and care for you. This is conflict. And then the ending is very tragic, but because of what is happening throughout the looking at it from this is what trauma does when you're totally isolated, when you don't have anyone to authentically connect to and talk to. It's very true to that. So it's just extra devastating because it's she's isolated on all fronts. So I thought her performance was amazing. I wanted to cry 90% of the movie just because I felt for her. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, you really feel it. I think the first time you feel it is early in the film, where Mia is sitting with Jade, and the mother comes walking in, and she says something about, I think Mia maybe smoked something, or
she says something about smoking weed, and Mia says I did it one time, offhandedly, and it's inferred that Jade probably was doing that as well,
right?
But that's enough that she references it later when it's I knew that you were doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole time she had this thought in the back of her mind that this girl's corrupting her daughter.
Yeah, you're the bad influence on my daughter.
Yeah, of course you would do that. And it's really gross to feel that. But there's also the added level of the fact that there is inclusion of the native peoples of Australia who are in there. And they're one of the best parts of the film, to be honest. And I think them being able to be authentically themselves too, having a non-binary character, all of those levels to it were really, I think it was all very intentional.
Yeah. Well, again, I think your generational lens is the primary lens to look at this through, where these characters that in previous generations would have been cannon fodder, would have been comic relief, wouldn't have had any agency whatsoever. As you said, the native peoples are actually kind of the driving force, and they're not punished for it. There's that really provocative moment where they're talking about the origin of the hand. He says, some white people shit. Yeah. And they did. But it centers him as he says it. No one is, this, and it doesn't, he's not some sage.
Yeah.
Native spirit.
He's a dumb jock boy.
Yes. Yes.
He just gets to be a dumb jock boy.
The indigenous person gets to be a dumb jock boy. It's
That's
not
a win.
Predator with him taking his shirt off and
Yeah.
the spirit.
He was so fun. I was if he handed me the hand, I'd be okay, maybe I'll try it. I'd be okay, maybe.
Gabe, no. That's the whole thing.
Again, this is exactly how it happens. Like, this is exactly how, like, those are the guys that talk you into doing something that 10 years after the fact, you're like, I can't believe I did fill in the blank.
Yeah, real talk. So, would you recommend that people see Talk to Me?
Yeah. Of course, with the, check out trigger warnings if that's some, like, because not everyone loves, horror. And I will say, like, it is a film where it's okay if you, like, close your eyes during some of those gory scenes. You will still get the understanding of what's happening.
So from the sound design.
Yeah, you'll hear it for sure. And that could, be emotional. But yeah, like, even in watching it, like, the second time, Kat left for a part of of it, came back, and it's still...
Because I knew it was going to happen.
Which part?
Yeah.
the
the headbang. Yeah.
I will say of all the things in, because I'm like you, like somebody, I'll be like, okay. But there's a scene in here where the young boy he's cracking his head like up against like a table and walls and stuff like that. And it is jarring.
Yeah.
One is jarring when it happens.
Yeah.
Because it comes boom. And then as it repeatedly happens, you just see the effects of it. Oh.
And like you said, the sound design is...
Oh, yeah, because you hear it.
Because you hear the crack. It is visceral, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're emotionally attached to him. Like, he becomes your little brother.
Right.
And like seeing him get hurt so many times and then seeing the reactions of everyone around him, like, it just also hurts emotionally versus like if something silly like gore would happen, you could easily just be like, okay, let's,
And it kind of plays upon the fact that it's like you're watching through a screen and you just are like desperately hoping someone inside the screen will do something and you have no ability to help and you like want to.
Which is also what happens in the space too.
Yeah.
How many people are standing around and not acting until the sister puts her hand out. So it's also like we're representing like the people there.
Well, to your point, we're all kind of voyeurs. It's like they're looking through they're all videotaping it on their phones.
It takes them a minute to really realize, like, oh, this is real life.
This is
happening.
Yeah, like
right.
we should stop him from doing
Right. This isn't a show.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
What about you, Vincent? Would you recommend?
I would recommend it. I think all jokes is, about, well, I didn't scare me because they were all doing a bunch of stuff I never would have done. I don't think it's scary like that.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Like I do think it is way more. I think it's sadder.
Well, certainly by the end, which we're not giving away purposely.
Right. Oh, well, even without the end, like you said, as someone who has lost their parents, like that moment where she thinks, I can have another moment. Just and it's two people who don't have unanswered questions. Like for a young person and weren't 15 when it happened. Right. You can just imagine and I actually thought it was a really good character study.
Oh my God.
Of this character, Mia. And to it being a Black film, like you said, I do think you get this sense of isolation that I think a lot of Black kids and just minorities in general have in these mostly white spaces, and which then informs the decisions that she makes. Sophie Lane?
Yeah.
What else has she done? Is this her first film?
She's in a Netflix show.
She's in a Netflix show.
What is she in on Netflix?
It's a similar energy where she's like going through it emotionally.
She's suffering from, I think, anorexia or some other eating disorder.
So wow, excuse me.
Yeah, her performance is amazing. Yeah. I know that she has a Netflix show where she's the lead again.
Yeah.
You Don't Know Me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But I would recommend it, and I would recommend it as someone who doesn't, like, I don't do horror films. I don't do, but I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I think we often have that kind of discussion with people who, if we talk about our show and they're like, well, I don't like horror films. And our response is always like, well, you haven't found the horror film for you. Because there's like, people think Halloween or they think Saw or any of those kinds of things. I'm like, oh no, there's horror for everyone. Like, trust me, we can find you.
Everyone.
Well, there is. I mean, some people still put Godzilla movies in horror.
It is.
So
it's terrifying.
Wow.
It's a creature feature, and nuclear energy. It's about consumerism. It's about nationalism. There's a lot going on in Godzilla.
You ain't gonna tell me. Love me some Godzilla.
So 2 itty bitty Japanese women who can talk to a giant moth.
I love Mothra.
Of course you love Mothra.
Well, I will make it unanimous. I would definitely recommend Talk to Me. It's a very affecting film. The whole scene with the mother. There's a scene also where Mia is laying down and her mother comes behind her to hug her and lay her as sleeps. And there was a part of me, I didn't know whether or not that scene was a memory or if it was like in real time, but I didn't care because it's, again, as someone, if you lose a parent, it's what you're feeling. It's what you feel. It's what you're wanting.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was such a sweet little moment. My read was that was never her mother.
Yeah.
Like it was something pretending to be. So why would this demon shapeshifter have this, unless by your read, like you said, it was a memory that she had.
I think it was.
It gets into her though.
It does, but
time in her.
the reason why I wasn't sure whether or not that was a memory was because, if I remember correctly, the mother, when we see the mother kind of like demonized or whatever, she definitely has demon aspect to her. And if I remember that scene, she wasn't. But you only could see her from the side, but I don't think she was.
And it was after she tried to eat old boy's foot.
His foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say with the being, one of the biggest things is like the water motif because the spirit that she does commune with clearly drowned. Like, so you always hear water.
Bloated.
Which is unrelated. But there's the extra layer to the argument that it could be her mother who somehow finds her because her mother died on a rainy day. And that's mentioned as well. So it is kind of like, I think it becomes a mix of magical realism where you can interpret it either way. But I think the usual interpretation is that she's twisting it. But I think because they're in you, and if they spent longer time in you, she might have her memories. I will say my one gripe with the film is that like the thing that convinces Mia at first that this is her mom is that she uses her nickname, which is just Me. Which her name is Mia. It's like, that's an easy guess, babe. Like, I would be like, me? Like if it was like Junebug or
Right.
Hey, Scooty Booty.
Something, maternal and cute that would have like been totally different. But Me, I was like, okay, they're just guessing. This is like
You just removed a letter. Yeah.
My gripe, I did need a little bit more explanation about how these two chuckleheads ended up with
his hand,
with the hand from the previous chucklehead who had it.
The brother gave it to him.
Yeah, but how does that chucklehead get it?
Yeah, he got it from people he thought it was his friend. I think it gets passed on. Somebody gets too hurt and they pass it on.
It's just sort of a
because the boy
like a weird.
Get this out my house.
It's like a dumbass teenager monkey paw.
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Right.
Yeah. And it connects to like no one ever talks to anybody about anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all this trauma happened. We're going to pass it off to someone else, but we're not going to tell them all this trauma happened.
Right.
Like, keep doing that.
Just
over and
tag
over
you're
again.
it.
Yeah. Your turn to suffer.
Yeah. Which is like kind of like the whole downfall of the film, which is generational trauma.
Very true.
Or trauma within the generation.
Yeah.
Intergenerational trauma.
Intra-generation. Yeah. There you go.
Well, there you go, folks. That is our review of Talk to Me. Before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week, we have a couple of things that we want to tell you about. First, Wednesday, October 23rd, Bryn Mawr Film Festival, the Micheaux Mission, along with the Be Real Black Cinema Club, will be returning with the Be Real Micheaux screening series for our screening of Attack the Block. Wednesday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale right now at brynmarfilm.org. And you want to come there and be on time. One, because we are, as always, giving out free soft pretzels. And that's enough of a reason. But if for some reason that's not enough of a reason for you, I've got even a better reason, because on that night, we will be screening before Attack the Block, a short film created by the Ghouls Next Door.
So filmmaker.
As we will be screening Jolly Butcher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to give people the 30-second pitch on Jolly Butcher?
So Jolly Butcher is a killer content creator who has a special unboxing video starring me, Kat, and my husband. I'm trying to get like the brothers, make my YouTube fame and then make a real film. So
Yeah.
come see it.
All right.
Oh boy. Jolly Butcher, Attack the Block, Wednesday, October 23rd at Bryn Mawr Film Institute, folks. And if you like what the Ghouls Next Door have bubbling up in their cauldron, then you can find them every place that podcasts be. The Ghouls Next Door on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. They've got a YouTube channel as well. They've got it going on. 290 episodes.
Very nice.
Still going strong.
Coming up, you know what you're doing for 300? Or is it too early to
We
announce?
want to do like a live show, but we're figuring it out. Yes.
God, yes, 300. You got to do a live show.
It's been a minute since we've done a live show. I think the last one was at the Fan Expo.
Yeah.
But
Which was like
Yeah.
2021, 2020.
something.
It was
Yeah.
a long time
But it's usually standing room only for the ghouls.
That's right. That's right. The Ghouls, they pack the room, folks. Y'all better make
Just in Philly.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's true.
hey. So you better get there. Well, let us know because we will definitely want to be in this in the room.
And we will be having our own talk back series that's happening actually the day after.
Yes.
That we're going to be at the Rotunda watching I Saw the TV Glow, which is another one of those generational, it's our generation,
Emotion.
you know, kind of coming of age and just discovering yourself and a little bit of spooky in there. And we'll have a talk back, and that is on the 24th, right? And at the Rotunda in Philly.
Nice.
All
And if
right.
people want to get tickets, should they go?
They can check out our social media. We do have posts about it. Otherwise, they can go to cinespeak.org and check out their events. But yeah, we'll be posting on social media. And as we said, we are on YouTube. We do dress up for our episodes. So if you want to see me looking like the Talk to Me folks or anything, you could check it out and view any of our backlog. We've done Attack the Block 2. I love to say there's a Ghouls for that. Whether it's a horror film or like an issue, someone's like pregnancy. I'm like, there's a Ghouls for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you both. For,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
You.
anytime.
Anytime.
Anytime. We want to come to a comedy. Okay, come on.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.